Hey everybody, and welcome to lesson 3, where we're talking about email fundraising. So this is the other primary means by which you will be fundraising in addition to events. So I just wanted to take some time to talk about the basic setup of an email email fundraising campaign, the kind of nitty gritty of the tools that you need to make sure that this thing is running successfully. And then spend some time talking about best practices and tips and tricks around sending successful email campaign fundraising asks. So let's start off here and talk about the basic setup of it. So primarily you need an email system, and we've been talking about this throughout the whole course. That you can use something like MailChimp or like iContact. They're free email tools, and it's like a freemium model. You can get paid subscriptions that give you a little more functionality. But whatever email system you have set up at this point, and you should have one set up at this point, then that's what you're going to be using to do your fundraising asks. We also talked about using all-in-one software like Nation Builder, something that brings in a voter database and allows you to send emails through that system and track if people have donated, attended events, like their stance on your campaign. Do they support you, oppose you, undecided? Software like that. If you are using an all-in-one, then you'll also be using that to send out your fundraising asks. And then for the audience, you need to, have a group of people you're sending out this ask to. So we've been talking about having a voter database this whole time. And these are the folks that you will, a section of these folks are the people that you'll be targeting for the fundraising ask. But it will only be people that have been identified as supporters and folks that have signed up for your email distribution. So this is a different database than like the voter rolls that you pull from like the government list, or one that you get from the party, or from like Nation Builder, from an all-in-one data source. These are people that have explicitly signed up for updates for your campaign via your website. So we talked a lot about building this list in, I forget the exact chapter and lesson number, but this is a list you've been building yourself. It's important that you know which list you are sending it to, and that you're sending it to people that have signed up for updates from your campaign. It is against the law to send people spam, even if it's just email spam. And that's what this would be considered as spam if you're emailing people and asking them for money and they haven't given you their consent to email them. So make sure you're sending it to the right list, people that have signed up to hear from your campaign. And then the third thing that you'll need is like a donation system, is what I've called it, but essentially a means of processing people's credit cards and getting that money into your bank account. So in our chapter where we jumped in, where we got everything up and running for I called it time to jump in, we talked about setting up a bank account. So obviously you're going to need a bank account set up in order to collect donations, but you're also going to need like a physical, not physical, but like a portal on your website or in emails that people actually enter in information, and it processes the credit card, and the funds actually get sent to your bank. There's a whole, it requires a lot of software, a lot of the digital pipes that make this money run from one bank to another. But lucky for us, there's already a couple of systems that are already set up. ActBlue is one, and they are primarily set up to support progressive organizations and candidates and Democratic candidates. So it's really closely aligned to Democratic Party. And so if you are like a progressive or Democrat running, then you can use them. And there is a fee attached to it, just like a regular credit card processing fee that you would pay with any sort of system like this. But they have some really cool tools that allow you to easily integrate these donation forms into your website or into email asks, and they have people available to help you. And if you are like a Dem or a progressive, it's cool knowing that you're doing this like as all kind of one big cohort or one sort of family, if you will. They have all sorts of examples on their website of other candidates that have used them successfully. Then the other one is PayPal. So this could be, not just limited to Dems and progressives running, but any political candidate can use their systems, and they have systems that are designed just for political candidates. So if you Google like PayPal accept money political candidate, and I'll put the link as well over here. But they have like a page set up just to cater to political candidates and showing you how you can use their tools to collect donations, and it's just as easy as ActiveBlue, I think. And I'm not quite sure how the pricing compares, but I know PayPal's like right between like 1.9 and 2.9%, and I think ActiveBlue is around the same. It varies depending on what cards people are using. And then they also, I know that PayPal has an app and then a little like a thing that plugs into the headphone jack on a cell phone, and it allows you to like swipe a credit card through it. So if you were doing fundraising at an event and you had people like asking for donations there on the spot, they could just swipe the card, and it would presumably process a lot faster than having the person have to type in their name and their credit card number and everything right there on the spot. So that's for systems. So now let's get into some best practices and tips and tricks how to actually send successful fundraising emails. So we've all gotten a million different political fundraising emails in our lives. So I wanted to kind of think outside the political arena and take a look at best practices that are being done by online entrepreneurs today. I think a lot about social media marketing and online marketing for building small businesses, and I've done a lot of that sort of work in the past. So kind of leveraging that, let's see what we could come up here with how to get successful email asks. So you want to have one key point to the email. So it's and that point is not, hey, give me money. There has to be some sort of hook that goes along with it. So maybe my one key point is like I'm running for supervisor, and there was let me think about something. So let's say that I came up with a proposal for like homelessness in my community because it's been getting really bad, and so I announced this proposal about what I'm going to do if I'm elected, and of course I send out like my little press releases and media advisory and that sort of thing. Maybe get a little bit of traction in the local newspaper. So then I take, and it's like a really favorable ad in the local newspaper. So then I send a fundraising email. It says like, hey, did you see that my policy proposal for homelessness got covered in the Appeal Democrat? That's the local newspaper in my hometown, Yuba City. And so people, that's the point of the email, is to share this information that, hey, this policy idea that I had, it got this really cool press coverage, and the Appeal Democrat wrote about it, and they find it to be like really a really good idea. So that's like the one point of the email. It's not like, hey, homelessness and a host of other issues are affecting our community, and Chris is the best one to do something about it. That's like way too vague, way too vague. And it's talking about homelessness and a lot of other issues, and it's talking about Chris, and he's a good candidate. It's too much going on. So the next tip here is preview text. So this isn't something people think about when they're drafting emails at all, but when you send an email, you have like your subject line, obviously, and then the body of the email. So the subject line is like, meet me for drinks, and then the body is like, hey buddy, you want to meet me for drinks at 7:45 tonight? if you do, let's go to that new bar by my house that I keep talking about. Okay, hope you can make it. Ciao, Chris. So, it's just simple email, send it to my friend to see if he wants to grab drinks. When that email pops up on his phone or in his inbox on his desktop computer, he'll see the subject line, and it says, like, let's do drinks tonight. So that's pretty straightforward. But also, he sees the beginning of the email, too. And it says, hey, buddy, just thinking that maybe we could get together for ... So they also see that very beginning of the email. So that should be treated as like a secondary subject line, or as part of the text and like the hook that you're going to use to get people in there, because they're likely going to see that email pop up on their phone. So they probably will see that text. They might clear it away right away, and they might not ever open up the whole email, but you can pretty much count on the fact that they're at least going to see that piece of the email. Excuse me, sorry guys. So you want to be very thoughtful about what you put there, and it should be like something to draw people in further. That's the idea there, is that it's going to be a hook to pull people in to actually want to open up the entire email. So make it catchy. And then for just like a general vibe of the email, I like marketing emails that I've gotten that I tend to open is when it's somebody like famous, some notable figure or whomever that I follow. They do their email marketing as like an exclusive kind of behind the scenes look at their life, and it's almost like you're part of like an exclusive club because you're like getting these emails and you're reading it and you're following along with them. So anytime that you can give that sort of vibe, like, hey, just for my folks that are here on my email list, just want to let you know before anybody else, blah 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 blah. So try and get some of that language in there to make it feel like they have an exclusive experience with this email, because it's going to make them want to follow and open those emails more in the future and be more engaged in what the content is actually saying. Something else that you could experiment with, and it might not go well, but I've found success doing this with marketing emails that I've sent, is to use like a plain font and a casual tone. So most marketing emails that we get today come from some sort of template in some email blast software. It has like a banner across the top with like nice images, and then it says, and the font is different than if someone was just to like, send you an email from their phone or whatever. And then like, different colored links, underlined, and like you can tell it's like actually like formatted really well. And when you see that, you think like, okay, this is email marketing. The only time that people like actually like take the time to create these nice emails is when they're marketers. And I don't want somebody marketing something to me right now. I just like want to read emails that are important to me. And emails that are important to me, they never come through looking like that. They come through from my friends and family, people that just typed a freaking email and sent it to me. They didn't make it look all nice and formatted this way or that way. So you can experiment with using that, like using just plain font. So it's actually kind of surprisingly hard in the email blast software that you use to strip out all of the formatting and everything and just get it to send in just a plain text email. But you can do it. It might take a little bit of work, but you can do it. And when I say casual tone, I mean like, this is iffy, but you'll have to experiment with it, and it has to fit your brand or not. But maybe like not uppercase everything. Make it feel more like a text that someone is sending. I don't know if I could ever do that because I'm pretty formal with the way that I write anyway. So I'll leave that one up to you. But it could be something that really makes people feel like they're part of this exclusive club and that they're getting like an inside look. It's not something that's super, super polished and make them want to open up the email even more. This is a good tip. You could vary the sender. So when you send out emails from Email Blast software, you can say who the sender is. You can just put like Chris Moore and then Chris@chrismooreforsupervisor.com as the return email. Or you could put your wife or husband's name on there, and then send the email from the perspective of your spouse. Maybe it is you put your campaign finance chair's name in there, and then you send it from the perspective of your campaign finance chair. Like, hey, just want you all to know that we've done really good with our fundraising, and thank you to everyone that has donated. And if you still want to, here's another link. That's a crappy email. Don't send that. But you could send it from your best friend's name, and say when Carol, I'll use my favorite generic name, Carol. When Carol decided to run, I knew that this was the right move for her, because I've known her since we were 6 years old in kindergarten, and I've always known that she was a natural leader. Please join me in supporting Carol. Can you chip in $15 today to help her with her fundraising? Something like that. And the reason that you vary the sender is because people start to get used to seeing just your name, or just campaign to support Chris, whatever. But they see this name pop up, and they're like, I don't know a Carol. What's she emailing about? And it doesn't quite look like spam, because it doesn't have, it doesn't look like it's coming from an organization. It's not coming from LinkedIn or Etsy or something like that. And for this one, unique call to action. So if it's a fundraising email, rather than you're going to need a link to the donation page on your website at some point. So you will have a link on there. But rather than having click here to make a donation now, or click here to donate, that's called the call to action. The thing that you click on, that's called the call to action. And that text there, rather than saying click here to donate, say that if it was that email that I was just talking about from Carol's best friend, and they went to kindergarten together, and she always knew she was a natural born leader. Maybe the call to action is, please join me in supporting this natural born leader who's going to be great for our community. Click here. And then that whole thing is the link. So you make the call to action unique. Don't just say click here to donate, and you tie it back to that single purpose of the email that I put here in the first bullet point. One key point to the email, make your call to action tie back to that. So it feels like one cohesive message throughout the email. And when you make that, you're not asking people to make a donation, you're asking people to take an action based on this message that they just received from this one key message from this email. And the last point here is to experiment and Google often. So experiment with new stuff in your email fundraising, and when you send out an email with these email blast software with Nation Builder or something, you get a lot of data back. You can see how many people opened it. You can see what links people clicked on or not. You get lots of data back. So that way you can test and you can iterate. So try new things, see what kind of emails people are opening at higher rates, and then follow those best practices of whatever's working for your campaign. So just and never stop that process. Always be experimenting with new stuff, because these trends change very, very, very quickly. And then I said here, and Google often. There are a billion resources out there about email marketing and email fundraising, and what are the best practices, and who does what and how, and what you should do. So just Google it often. The trends change, like I said, and just stay abreast of the best practices, and make sure that you or whoever on your campaign is sending out these email fundraising asks is adopting those best, latest practices and experimenting with them. Okay, that's all I have for you here in Lesson 3. And actually that wraps up Chapter 8 as well on fundraising. So we're rounding out the end of our course here. Chapter 9 is going to be on GOTV, Get Out the Vote. And Chapter 10, we will wrap up and say goodbye. So thanks for following along thus far, and I hope that you found this valuable. If you have any questions or anything, of course, feel free to ask them over here. Thanks, guys.